Welcome back. This is the first of the form relief tool, the Eureka form relief tool construction videos that I'm going to do on how I built it. If you haven't seen the first video on the Eureka tool, you might want to watch that one first to get an idea how it works before you get into how it was built, how I put it all together. I do want you to know that Ivan Law has a set of drawings for this in his book Gears and Gear Cutting. It's on the last 3 pages or so of the book, and it's available for the drawings to do all this. And it's also available, the exact same drawings are in Model Engineer Volume 158. And so I'm going to show you how I built it. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this. I'm just going to show you how I approached the whole idea of the build. So let's get started. But these are all the parts, and I'm going to start with these 1/4-inch steel parts here with the big holes in them. The reason is that they have to be nice fits on different parts of the mandrel. They have to have a nice tight fit to them, and onto the indexing sleeve. But they all have to fit really nice. So I thought I would bore the holes all the same, and so I'll start with this, and that way when I'm building these I can use these to gauge to see how far I want to go with that. I just transcribed the parts onto this piece to give me an idea what I'm doing when I get over to the mill, but I'm going to do all the parts right now as far as the transcribing goes. I've got them on this 1/4-inch piece of steel, and the plans call for a 5/16 piece, but I'm going to make everything out of this 1/4-inch because that's what I've got. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll use that grinder and cut this piece up. And I'm sure you've seen a grinder cut steel before, and it makes a lot of noise and it makes a lot of mess. So I'm going to go off camera to do this. Okay, I've got a piece of this 1/4-inch steel in the mill now, and I'm just squaring it up so that it'll fit in the vise nicely, and started boring it. I'm using a 3-inch boring bar here, and just taking my time boring the hole. Alright, I've switched over to the slot here. I'm just getting ready to finish up the slot. And you can see that I've drilled the 2 holes next to it there. I figured you'd seen holes being drilled before. The hole up the top is tapped to 1/4 28. The other one is reamed for a press fit. But this finishing this slot with a roughing end mill here, and that'll end the work on the mill for this piece. I'm over at the bandsaw now, and I make straight cuts with the bandsaw. I don't try to make curves or things like that. So I spend a little bit of time here clearing off as much metal as I possibly can before I go over to the sander and the die filer. So I'll be here for a little bit. Yeah, I'm over here at the sander now, and I'm just bringing it down to the line with the sander and getting rid of all the hard spots, getting in as close as I can. Sander kind of removes stuff rather fast, but when I get over to the die filer, then I'll get more precision and get rid of the line that I scribed on there. Over at the die filer now, and I had a lot of extra noise in the shop, so I'm doing a voiceover here. But you can see at the die filer I spend a bit of time, and I get it right down to the line as best I can. The die filer is really, really good at getting into spots where you can't get into it with the bandsaw and you can't get into it with the sander. So it's a very precision machine. Doesn't remove a lot of material fast, but it's very precision. You can hold the stuff right in there and get it right off of there. And that's what I'm doing here. And I'll spend a little bit of time at the die filer here and bring it right down to the line. Okay, I thought before I started doing the draw filing,
on the anchor plate that I'd bring you over and give you an idea of what my this is my vise that I use for my filing. And I have a lot of different types of jaws that I use to make sure, especially these are heavy plastic, this is light plastic, this is rubber, and I've made a couple of my own out of leather, smaller, so that they fit in my smaller vise as well. I don't make them too often because these are really cheap. They're, you know, I haven't bought one in a while, but they're really cheap when I did buy them. And then of course I keep a bunch of wood around here. This Eureka tool really pointed out to me that I didn't have a lot of files to do the draw filing with on steel. I don't mix my files that I use for brass with the files that I use for steel. Normally I'll use them in brass until I don't feel they're doing what I want anymore, and then they get thrown into the pile with the steel cutting ones. So what I did was I went through and got a few more out of the brass pile and put them into the steel file so I could start on this. And of course, number one thing for me is I got to have my my magnifying loupe here. I don't see too real well, so this gets me in there really close where I need to be when I'm doing the absolute final part of the work here. This is draw filing. What the die filer does is go up and down like that and does cross filing. But this is getting rid of all the other marks now. At least that's the whole idea of the draw filing, is to get it down so you get a nice finish on your work.
Alright, I'm over at the brass wheel now. I'm using a fine brass wheel here. I've tried the other ones. I like the fine one, but this is the final step. Kind of brings the metal up to a little bit of a luster, and a good way to finish it off, for me anyway.
Okay, we finished making the anchor plate. And now we're getting ready. We'll go down there and we'll make the click that goes on the anchor plate. So let's go ahead back down to the shop.
Alright, we've got the metal for the click over on the mill now. We're reaming out the hole here. Alright, so let's go ahead and get a 1/2 inch end mill in there. Okay, we're reaming a pocket now for that head of the screw. Yeah, that should get it deep enough. Alright, so we got that hole in there, and we've got it scribed out. So now I'm just using the bandsaw, and I'll just get rid of as much of the metal as I can before we head on over to the sand. I'll be here at this. Alright, so we're just sanding down to the line like we did on the last one. I'm not going to take it over to the die filer next. When we leave here, this is going to be kind of small, so I'll take it over to the vise and just start draw filing on it. Alright. Got a little bit of draw filing to do here. I think I'll be cross filing here in a second. Draw filing's not getting much here. Let me take a look. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Let's try a different approach. We'll cross file for a while like this. Alright, I like to use a fine brass wheel to clean up my parts when I'm done. Works really well on steel. And this part's done for now. It's getting cleaned up, and I made it an 1/8 inch oversized because when I do the timing of the machine at the end when I'm getting ready to run it, I file down the tip a little bit until I get the two clicks to in time with each other so that they work correctly. And then I'll be taking it over and case hardening it. And so that'll be a little later on.
Okay, the click is all done. So now we'll go ahead down there and we'll work on the screw.
Okay, I've got a piece of cold rolled steel in here, and I'm bringing it down to the shoulder length. You can see I've marked off where the head of the screw is going to be. Let's take a quick look and see how close I am. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to make one more pass in here. And I'll bring it all the way into the shoulder. There we go. Now bringing it out, clean up that shoulder a little bit. There we go. That's nice and clean. And I still got a couple of foul on there still. So I'll just get this triangular file in there and just kind of clean that up a little bit so that shoulder's nice. Alright, so let's clear off down to the 1/4 mark. There we go, there's our shoulder. It's not much, not very far to go, just a couple of passes. That should get me in there pretty close. Yeah, with one little spring pass here. Clean up that shoulder a little bit. There we go. Let's get a look at that. Yeah, that's going to do it. Alright, put a little oil in here. And I've got a 1/4 die in there. And in the tailstock. There we go. Now hold the vise. And turn the die. And then we'll just turn it right up to that little shoulder that we cut in there earlier. And just a couple more turns here. Clear some of that stuff out, see where I am. Just bring it right up to that shoulder. The shoulder's not that steep, so I don't want to go over it either. Yeah, there I am. There I am. I'm right there. Good. Back it off out of here and we're done with that. Move it over to the Shoreline lathe to part it off. I like that better for parting. Yeah, a little bit of oil. I do like this little Shoreline lathe for parting off small pieces like that. Yep. Part it off a little bit proud. And we'll take it over and finish it up on the Atlas. Okay, now I got to go in there and make a little dimp in the center there for this when I put the slitting saw on it to cut the slit for the screwdriver. Just a little bit of a dip there that I can see. Yeah, there's that little dimp. Alright, that's pretty lined up right there. Alright, here we are at the mill with the slitting saw, making that pass across the face of that screw that we just made. There we go. That should do it. There you go. There's a good look at that slit for you. Let me clean it here. There you go. That worked out pretty good. I'm just going to do this screw rather quickly. I'm going to cut it up a little bit. We'll get it up to red here and put it into the cherry red container there. And all I'm really worried about now is I want to get the face of that hard. I don't care about the threads. I just don't want a screwdriver to bugger up that slot that we just put in it. It's not going to take much. It'll be done in a couple seconds. I'm only going to have to do this once. It doesn't have to be that hard. Alright, let's bring it up to cherry again and then douse it. That's looking good. Let me go get a file and we'll do a little bit of a scratch test. There we go. A little scratch test with this file. Yeah, it's just sliding all over the place. Yeah, that's really good. Let's go ahead over to the wire wheel. Now this will finish up that screw in a couple minutes here. And
the screw is all finished, and so that finishes the work on the click, which is going to go in there like that. Now, this is the spring that holds the click down, and I just simply in the mill centered it up, drilled a couple holes in there, and then that goes on there like that, and that holds the click. That gives the click some spring. And then this is just simply a piece of cold rolled steel that I cut down, and that gets pressed in here. And so I'm going to go ahead and put the whole thing together now, and I'm not going to show you machining a simple stud. So let me put it all together. We'll come back and we'll get started on something else. And I did not make the dowel on camera because it's just a simple press fit. And I did not make the spring plate here on camera. It's just simply a square piece of metal. And then the music wire spring here, I just put it in there. I hammered it in with a little bend in it and some Loctite, and that's what gives the pressure to the click on the sleeve. So now I'm going on and I'm going to do the ratchet plate. And you can see the ratchet plate's not much different, so I'm going to go fairly quickly on that one. So let's go ahead down to the shop and I'll get started on that.
Okay, using a wobbler here to find my starting point. I think I'm going to start on the ratchet plate by doing the slot first. So we'll get over here and drill a little hole and get the end mill in there and make this slot. I got a roughing end mill in there and slowly clearing out the slot. Okay, boring the hole the same way I did on the other ones. Nothing new about that. Yeah, I drilled that hole over in the corner there and tapped it out to quarter 28. I guess you've seen that before, so I didn't bother showing it. But now we're back over on the bandsaw, and I'm just cutting off as much steel as Alright, we're on the sander and just clearing off the hard corners, getting it down close to the line, get it ready for the die filer. And there's the die filer again. And we'll clear up right down to the line will disappear with the die filer. And the final step here is the draw filing. I enjoy the draw filing. And I'll finish it off with just a little bit of a wire wheel here to get the luster out on the piece. Yeah, this is one of those small pieces. It's a little difficult on the bandsaw, but I use a piece of wood and just cut notches in it with a bandsaw and different ways of holding it and stuff like that. It's really not, with a vice grip and a piece of wood, I can usually get pretty close. And once again, we're bringing it down to the line here on the sander just really quick. The sander's pretty fast. Didn't use the die filer this time. The piece is just a little too small for that. But here we are finishing off this tip here.
Okay, this click is done for now. We'll brighten it up a little bit with this brass wheel. And then again, once I'm put the machine together and I'm going to be timing the 2 clicks to get the machine to run up right, I'll be filing it down. It was made about 1/8 of an inch oversized, so filed into sight, and then it'll get case hardened, and just the tip of it will get case hardened, and then this click will be done.
Alright, so we've turned it down now to the major diameter, so now I'm just using a, I think this is a 1/4 28 die. Finish off this end. It's a little bit smaller than the other end. Alright, that's looking pretty good. And there's the finish pin with the threads on both ends. 5/16 on one end and 1/4 on the other. Alright. Used the tap over on the lathe, and now we're just squaring off the 8 sides. Once again, I'm heating it up to cherry here. All I care about is I don't want a wrench to bugger up the top. It's not for the threads or anything like that. I just don't want a wrench to mess up the 8 corners I just put on there. Alright, into the cherry red case hardening. And it sat there long enough now, so we'll bring it back up to cherry. There we go, into the water. Let's take a look at that. There we go. There's a file to do a scratch test. Yeah, it's just sliding all over the place. Yeah, that's good. So I got 2 1/4-inch drill bits here, and I'm just putting them in the vise. This is kind of like a makeshift spring maker. I don't make a lot of springs, in fact, almost none. So I'm just doing this as quickly as possible. I'll probably do it over again later. Okay, some music wire here. Really need vice grips to kind of get any leverage on it at all. How am I going to place that in there? Now let's go over the other way. There we go. Let's try that. Okay. Yeah, not exactly the neatest coil there. See if we can't get that a little neater. Alright, clean that up with some needle nose. Not the best. If there's plenty of spring there, we can use that until I make something that if I like something better.
Alright, I just finished the indexing plate, and there's the spring and hold it all in there, and the nuts and everything. So now let's go ahead off and we'll do this ring here. This is the next part. This will be a quick one.
Yeah, I decided to bore the hole in the mill. I got my boring head up there. I don't use it that much, and I'm having fun with it. So, alright, I've already had it over to the bandsaw and to the sander. So now I'm just using a bump here to get it in line. I'm holding it from the internal bore that I just made. Alright, this OD's cleaning up really good. Couple more passes here, should be cleaning right. Alright, finishing off the locator ring here. Didn't need to use a sander or a die filer or the draw filing on it. I'm just putting a little bit of a sheen on it so it looks like the other parts with the wire brush, with the brass brush here. And that'll finish off this part. I'll take it over the mill and put a little bit of a set screw into it.
Alright, the ring gear is completed, and I did put a set screw in it. I didn't show it on camera. All I did was put it into the mill and centered it up and tapped a 1032 set screw into it. So that's going to conclude this video with these pieces here. And what I'll do next time is we will put a piece of 2-inch cold rolled steel in a 4-jaw chuck and make that offset. And then we'll do the indexing sleeve that fits on top of that, and I'll go over that with you. Alright, so I hope to see you next time. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great day.